Good morning. Am I audible? Okay, we want to make a start, so I'm asking that we take our seats so that we can allow the Premier to enter and we start with our proceedings. Those who are using side plates, those should actually be outside, but you can continue drinking your coffees. If you can just settle down, then we'll start shortly. Testing, testing. Anywhere where you want to sit. Testing, testing. Hello? This one is off. 1, 2. Testing. Testing.
2, 2, 1, 2.
1, 2, 1, 2. Testing. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Testing. This is fine.
Okay.
Can I test it from your down there? Anyway. 1, 2, 1, 2. Is it fine? And this other one? 1, 2. Okay. Hello? Absheni. Good morning. Goeiemorgen. Sanbonani. Welcome to the first stakeholder engagement with the faith-based organizations. We are running a bit late and we want to hit the road running. I'm going to ask that in the interest of time, we all have a moment of silence for brief meditation and to commit these proceedings to the higher force to be with us. We can do that as we rise, silently. Thank you. You may be seated. Turn up the music, please. May I ask that we flight the program for those who may not have seen it? Or do we have it next to us? Or we all have the program? Thank you very much. Can you switch off the music? While we are switching off the music, we will have the first speaker who will set the scene for our gathering this morning. After her presentation, we will have our Premier who will give us his speech as well. And after that, we will have an engagement with our two speakers. So I'm asking that we write the notes that we might be wanting to note whilst they're speaking. And when the time comes for questions, we will give people the time and the opportunity to ask their questions and engage. I would now call forward Dr. Claudiel, a member of GEAC. GEAC is the Gauteng Ethics Advisory Council, to come forward and set the scene for us. Over to you.
There are so many of you here. Thank you so much for showing up. Good morning. Premier, I believe that you are going to do the whole protocol thing. I'm a Generation Xer. I like to just go protocol observed. But ladies and gentlemen, the non-binary, we are so pleased to see so many of you here this morning. I must be honest, when we set the date, I was a little worried about how many will show up, but this just shows us how much commitment we have in the province, and it's absolutely a pleasure to see all of you here today. So are you, is somebody going to help me drive? So I'm so used to driving my own car. I don't have a clicker up here. Are you going to drive for me? Oh, there's the clicker. Great. So, as you've heard, my name is Claudel van Eck. I sit on the Gauteng Ethics Advisory Council. Our chairperson could not, unfortunately, not be here today, so I'm standing in for him. What I'm going to do this morning is just very briefly give you a little bit of an overview of the council, to give you a little bit of an idea of the work that we do, just so that we're all on the same page. So look at the Gauteng Ethics Advisory Council. It is a civil society-led advocacy body to promote the values of public accountability, and we place that out, the emphasis on the word accountability, very important for us. Ethics, and here we're talking about ethics in its broadest form. You know, more often than not, what we tend to see is, and when we talk about ethics, there's a very narrow focus on fraud and corruption. And I'm sure that I'm singing to the choir. When we're talking about ethics, it is a much broader concept. So when we look at ethics and the lens, when we look through the lens of ethics as the council, we want to see that there is this consciousness across the province in its broader sense in terms of what is right and what is wrong, and essentially to do no harm, or when we are sitting with ethical dilemmas, that we minimize harm. Integrity, clean governance, really want to see that in the province, and to help eliminate corruption in the conduct of public affairs in the Gauteng province. And of course, as you know, the setting that we are talking about, the context in which we are talking today is really in the context of the province. So we make recommendations to the Executive Council and Legislature Integrity Commissioner on measures and decisions that must be made to enhance ethics. So we are very, very interested in seeing what is being implemented, what are the programs on the table, and that we are maximizing what we have in terms of our resources and ensuring that we get to a point where we can say the clean governance is really working in our province, integrity and accountability in the conduct of public affairs in the province. So the main objective of the Advisory Council is to provide independent oversight. So if you look at who are on the council, all of us are independent. We are not employed by the province. So, and the independence, of course, is important because you need to be able to speak to the leadership without fear or favor. And if we need to give guidance, that we're able to do that. So then the advice and advocacy in fighting corruption and promoting the integrity. And so just in terms of our roles and responsibilities, I'll read through all of those because I know for some of you sitting at the back, the writing may be a little small. So monitoring trends in integrity and corruption. So part of what we want to see is that where the country generally, we've seen this upward trend in fraud and corruption and unethical behavior. We want to see that curving down and the trends going in the right direction. Actively collaborating with stakeholders who can assist the council in the execution of its responsibilities. Advising the Premier and the Executive Council on appropriate actions. Monitoring the adequacy and effectiveness of initiatives undertaken by the Premier. So if you're going to put initiatives in place, whatever programs you've got running, at the end of the day, you want to make sure that they are effective. So otherwise, we are spinning our wheels. So that's very important that monitoring, the continual monitoring happens. So partnering with other agencies and networks to promote the advancement of ethics. And here, we've already signed a couple of MOUs and bodies that we have pledges that have been signed. And then collaborative advocacy and mobilization of all sectors to change the unethical behavior. And this is really, and you see that red arrow there, this is part of what we're doing today, to have the conversation with this very important pillar of our society, which we call the faith-based organizations, and then mobilization and promotion of activism and facilitation of public campaigns on ethics, and then reporting biannually in terms of the activities and whether we're actually seeing that needle moving that we need to see. So we're really looking at the province as an ecosystem, and that we have different pillars within the ecosystem, all playing very, very important roles. So what we're trying to do is to get everybody to see the interconnectedness, how we are impacting on each other, but each stakeholder in the ecosystem having a very clear understanding of what their role and responsibility is in relation to the overall ecosystem. So one of the problems that and this is not just a South Africa problem, you see it all over the world, is that we're all focused on what it is that we need to achieve, what it is that our mission is, what our objectives are. And that is important. But it is also important that we understand it in the context of the ecosystem. So when we look at it from the council's perspective, we look at all the various stakeholders, how do all of them play a role in getting the province overall to a point where we can say we are now living in an ethical culture. And once again, I know that I'm singing to the choir here, preaching to the choir, but and that we're all on the same page in relation to that. So the picture that I use, so we've got our faith-based organizations that we're talking to today. We have started to meet with other stakeholders. So for example, the professional body sector, very important because they are essentially responsible for the professionals that are working in government. So if you were to take your internal auditors, for example, the Institute of Internal Auditors have a very important role to play in ensuring that their members are always acting in the interest of the public, and that their members essentially live up to the code of ethics, and that they hold their members accountable. So similarly, we would like to have the conversation with you today in terms of your role within the context of the ecosystem, right? So it's about uniting all the stakeholders so that we understand this very, very simple principle. Either we row together as South Africans, or we're going to sing separately. We love our country. We want to pull things together so that the next generation, what we hand over to the next generation, that history will judge us kindly. So I certainly don't want to be amongst those when the future generations look back and say, but Claudel van Eck, you were alive in 2023. What did you do to ensure that we build an ethical culture in our province? And so the question that we're sitting with, as we're putting it back to you, is what is your role, right? So within the context of the ecosystem, and really once again encouraging us to think about the whole ecosystem. So it's you individually, when I say individually, your organizations within the context of this stakeholdership, but this stakeholdership in the context of all the other stakeholders, and how can we work together so that we can move the needle. Program Director, that is me. Thank you very much, and once again, encourage you to really open up today, let's have very frank conversations, because it is going to take frank conversations, a willingness to listen to each other, and a willingness to reach across the aisle and looking at fellow South Africans building a better South Africa for all of us who live in it. Thank you.
I want to see if this is working. Okay. It is working. Do you have a clue why you have these there? It's whistle blowing. So the question is, what are you doing? What are you going to say to your children one day when they ask you about coming to this consultation? So to whistle blow is not a sin. There's nothing wrong with whistling blowing. I don't want us to waste time because we are running behind time. The next speaker is well known to all of us. He is our Premier. I don't have a resume because if I did that, it would take all the time. So I'm going to ask that when he takes the podium, we welcome him by blowing this whistle to show him that we are together in this. Less talk, more work. Come over, Premier.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Muruti Mabuza, it sounds like a Moroka Swallow soccer game. But you are trying to stop the match because Swallows is showing Kaizer Chiefs some flames. So I take your point, Muruti. But thank you so much. Let me take this opportunity to welcome the entire leadership of the Gauteng Ethics and Anti-Corruption Advisory Council, led by Dr. Terence Nombembe, who is well represented by the team here. I want to thank them and also for setting the scene. I also want to appreciate the presence of Professor David Musoma, the chairperson of the CRL Rights Commission. Thank you so much, Prof. It's always nice to see you and your team. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for agreeing to be part of this session, and we look forward in engaging with you. I'm not sure Father Smangaliso Mkajwa is here as well. I want to also thank him and the entire team of the Moral Generation Movement. I want to take this opportunity to welcome all of you here, especially the leadership of the church, representing various churches, the leadership of our traditional leadership that are here. I want to also thank those that are coming from various cultural formations and sectors. And I want to really, really appreciate your presence. It's rare that when we call people, they respond so positively. And I want to appreciate that and thank you from the bottom of my heart. As earlier indicated, we've been on a mission to consult with various structures. We are confronted by serious problems in our society, especially in our province of Gauteng. High on the agenda is the issue of corruption, which is stealing from the poor, basically. But also the issue that is related to how we conduct ourselves in society. We are seeing a sudden rise in the number of children having children. If you go to our hospitals, you'll be shocked to have under 14s giving birth. And if you go to our schools, even at primary school, you meet young girls that are expecting to give birth. But we are confronted by something that we are scared to say it, and I don't want to beat about the bush. If you are angry with me, feel free to be angry, because if you can't be angry, then you are not utilizing another part of your body to be angry. That we are a society that is going to be a society of drunkards. That we've got young people that glorify alcohol under the disguise that is business. Yes, it might be business, but it must be responsible business. And I said it, I want to mention here, and I said it when I was appointed as the Premier of this province. And the first task that I did, I said to the MEC responsible for giving liquor license, under my leadership, there will be no new liquor license until we have sorted out the problem of liquor now. And we need to openly declare this as an enemy of our society. We are not against people drinking, but we are against people abusing alcohol at the level that they're abusing. The other serious issue that is confronting us at all levels, and we are scared also to raise it, and my apologies if I am raising it in a manner that does not sit well. Nowadays, we can't sit and watch and enjoy television with our children. Everything that is on television, it must be about sex, it must be about violence, it must be a sex excessive drinking. And if we surrender ourselves to this kind of mentality, then we are rendering our country ungovernable, and we are handing it over to evil minds. And I stand to refuse to agree to that. And I come to you to say this can't be done by government alone. We need everyone to assist us to respond to these issues. I come to you to say we are a society that is going to hand over its future to criminals. And they play God. They can decide today who must die, and they can decide tomorrow who must live. They are not only organized, but they are armed to the teeth. And it's becoming difficult as society to respond to this collectively. We think that if we leave this part to law enforcement agencies, we've done our part. We think that if I have survived, I'm better off that at least I've survived. And I come to you on behalf of the government that I have the honor to lead, that will never surrender this province to criminals. and that criminals must know that we are mobilizing ourselves to stand firm and oppose their acts immediately. I come to you to say it pains some of us, and maybe you might feel otherwise, but it pains some of us that those that are weak, those that are vulnerable, those that rely on us to survive, in the last week, they could not even get their pension payouts because someone didn't do their job. And we tend to accept that this, it's normal, it's part of life. And I'm glad that I have a team led by the leadership that is chairing this session that has convinced you that we want to stamp our authority against corruption in our province. That what is due to those that are weak must be delivered without any difficulties to them. And what is due to our citizens must be delivered to those that need to get those services. Basically meaning clinics must be clinics, hospitals must be hospitals, schools must be schools, creches must be creches, that you don't have to pay somebody to get a service from the government that you lead. That our work should be our work as government, and we should have those that have been given the task to lead in this fashion. But we also have a problem that, if not properly defined, it can create chaos and create opportunities that feel that they can do as they wish. Indeed, we have people that come from other countries, especially from our continent, who are looking for opportunities in our country. Our message must be simple. Those that are looking for opportunities must go through the right door for them to get those opportunities in our country. And those that kick the door must suffer the consequences of kicking that door. There must be no one who must abuse our Ubuntu and our loyalty to serve other people. There must be no one who must take advantage of our hospitality. There must be no one that must take advantage of the things that are wrong, and they know they are wrong. You can't have an institution that is a sponsor shop, overnight it's selling drugs to our children. We can't have an institution that's supposed to be a sponsor shop, then it's selling alcohol without license. We can't have an institution that is faking driver's license, matric certificate in our presence. We've convened you to assist us to say chaos must come to an end in our province. We can't have lawlessness where people can go and do as they wish, carry heavy ammunition, claiming that they are mining only to find that they are not doing mining, they are taking over our country through lawlessness. And our call is very simple. Until all of us that knows what is good stand up, then we are losing the battle against lawlessness. And still all of us who knows what is right stand for our rights, then we are losing the battle against the right things. And still those that are committed to our country, believe in our country, and do as we all know what we must do, then we are surrendering our country to lawlessness. I remember when I was a young boy, there was a teacher in my school, and I thought this teacher was boring until I grew up. And when I went to her to thank what she has been doing to me, unfortunately she was late. And every morning before she starts the class, she will recite the 10 commandments to all of us. And now is the time to bring the 10 commandments back. in our lives. Now is the time to allow our children to be children, and for our children to do and to be taught what is right in our society. We must accept that in the process of liberating our country, there are good things that we let go unconsciously. We must find a way of bringing them to the center. So the session belongs to you today. What is it that you can do together, not only for our province to be good, but for our country to be good? What is it in your own corner that you believe this government must do to assist you? And what is it that you think we must do to also work together with you? Today's session should be a gloves-off session. Where you feel you need to raise issues, I'm giving you the permission, raise them without fear or favor. Amen. Where you believe there are areas where you feel we should combine hands together, please feel free to do so. And I will at one stage convene all of you in your regalia, in your beliefs, in your traditional spears, in your Bibles, whatever that you use to send your message. I want you one day to join me to go to those broadcasting houses and tell them we're enough about sex and violence. We need to march to these institutions that are destroying our children. We are not against creativity, but creativity without morals is meaningless. We want you to join me one day to those that are selling drugs to our children, that we have wiped out a generation completely. All of us gathered here, there is no one who can claim is not directly or indirectly affected by a child that is going through Nyaupe. We can't accept that as normal. We need to stand firm, challenge this. Wherever you are ready, tell me, I'm ready to stand on your side and rectify this beautiful province of ours. I will never surrender this province as a leader of this province to any lawlessness. I will surrender this province to those that love peace. Thank you so much for your attention.
Yeah, you got the message. Let's make sure that those who have come in also have the same whistle and we can blow it together. Ladies and gentlemen, we have 45 minutes to engage our two speakers. What I think I'm going to do, I'll request the Secretariat to assist because I cannot run around everywhere. We have 3 mics here in front, so I'll request some assistance from the Secretariat. Maybe first we need to take a round of those who may wish to ask. I see a hand there. I see another hand. I've not even said what I want to say. but keep those hands up. And maybe at first let us have a round for people just to ask questions of clarity directed at Dr. Claudiel, a member of GEAC. If we could just take the first round so that we are all in sync before we get animated and show the province that we mean business. I see the hand. Let it be questions of clarity first. Comments will follow, then questions will follow. Okay, that was the first hand I saw there. I see another hand there at the back, the second hand. Questions of clarity directed at Dr. Claudiel. I see another hand here and another hand. So I have 5 hands, 2 gentlemen, a lady here, another hand. Let's just take 5 hands at a go, just to understand what GEAC is all about and what GEAC is doing. Can the mics follow that order?
Thank you so much, Dr. Kayaki. And the Premier, thank you so much. Well, your turn is coming for clarity. Let's just deal with the first speaker. I'm realizing that your position is as an organization, as a stakeholder towards the government. I could be corrected on that. And more you deal with advices. Now, my question is, we're dealing with people which some of the issues the Premier managed to raise, to say people continue to do developments that are not that which we prefer. And when you advise, I'm realizing that not all the advices are taken. Now, how do you enforce? I know you're outside. I'm asking deliberately because you might not have an amount of power that the governance might have. But I need to know then how do you then enforce this? That is one. Secondary is that you spoke of roles. I might not be too sure if you want us to outline the roles today, or you are just conscientizing us into we have roles, are we implementing on the roles, or do you want us, by the time we leave in this place, we have outlined our roles, they're enforced, and we find a way to implement them, because I see the Premier is running. So we want to run along him. So with the two, I have a number of them, but I think some will be shared as we move. Failing which, I'll ask that I have to see you, then can I get a chance to ask, but I want to open up a space for everybody else to then follow up with their questions. Thanks.
Thank you. While you're standing, just tell us your name and where you come from, and everyone else. Not a speech, but just your name and what entity.
Oh, no, I apologize for that.
It's my error. Yes.
Oh, thank you for taking it. I hope all government people will do that. More especially the organization that is leading us.
Tell us who you are and what entity you represent.
Thank you.
Yes.
And I'm from an organization called Mamelodi Interdenominational Evangelical Ministers Fraternal. I am the secretary in that organization.
Thank you very much,
Thank you.
Dr. Rabroko. The one standing in front of you is Solomuz Mabuza, as your programs tell you. Can we have the next? There was a hand there, question of clarity. The hands that I recognize. Yeah.
Thank you, Program Director. To the doctor, from your presentation, can we get the document, Doctor, for what we are doing with the government? Because this was a short presentation that is not in detail. One, your achievements, things that you have achieved on since you have partnered with the government, things you are still struggling. It's important for us to know when we join in, we are joining in something that is achievable or not achievable. To the Premier, thank you for taking this gesture.
Can you hold on?
Or
we are
the
still addressing.
Or the doctor
I'll
first.
give you an opportunity.
For
Premier's
the
decision.
Premier.
Yes.
Okay.
Pass the mic.
Okay. I want to tell you.
You must tell me.
Let me tell you,
Yes.
Mabuz. Kentatetso dates.
So it is.
Ke tswa Tembisa. Ke moruti wa Premier.
Thank you, Ntate Tsotes. Just follow the hands. Oh, there is a hand here that I did recognize, yes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Program Director. Thank you, Premier, and also Dr. Von Eck. My name is Jan Pretorius from Sakov, and the questions that I have for GEAC is who are the members of the organization, and then who do they represent, and then also which other stakeholders are you working with who are representing the community that we are from, so that we can know who already are speaking into the organization.
Thank you very much. There was a hand there at the back.
Thank you very much. Ke moruti le kgwete. I don't want to repeat what the previous speakers were saying, but I think my concern is not necessarily about what Dr. Van Eyck was saying. It is about synergy between these structures that are being formulated. If one recalls, the moral regeneration has been there for quite some time. And one would want to know what is the difference between what the moral regeneration was trying to advocate and what the new structure now in place is trying to do. And the other thing for me that is of utmost concern is that sometimes we don't seem to take advantage of FBOs that are on the ground. And we need to tighten the screws around faith-based organizations. How faith-based organizations are they really? Because you still find that in the faith-based organizations that are going to be utilized to implement what both the Premier and what we address we were getting, and whatever structure is being formed, there are still these scattered. They still don't, and they're supposed to be operating as FBO. How FBO really are they? Because if they are not strengthened enough, they are not going to be able to address some of the challenges or most of the challenges that Premier was raising. Your failure go grounding. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That is a good example of someone who asks questions of clarity and gives you solutions. We will have an opportunity to have resolutions at the end of our proceedings. So let's just allow all of us to be at the same level and have the same understanding and progress so that by the time we get to resolutions, we are all one, we speak with one voice. So the last one that I recognize, just keep your question of clarity to one if you can, because all of us must find a way of expressing ourselves. The last person I recognize then, I think it's here in front. This is the last one. This is the first rounder. We'll come back to the second round. This is the last question of clarity. I'll open another round.
My name is Cesar Lukojolo from the Lutheran Church. Mine is just a short one about the safety of whistleblowers. Are they guaranteed safety? Thank you.
Thank you. I'll let Claudiel come forward.
Thank you very much for all those questions. And Program Director, you may need to help me. I have had to come to the point of acceptance that my gray hair is real. And thank you. And I didn't have a pen with me, so I am hoping that I have remembered all the questions that were asked of me. Let me start with my brother, who was actually my neighbor from my childhood. Mamelodi is next to where I grew up in Pretoria. The Advisory Council is a body that had been appointed by the Premier, and I think it's very important that we acknowledge the initiative from the Office of the Premier, that here we are going to allow ourselves to be accountable to an oversight body. That in itself, I think, says a lot of where the province wants to go. In terms of I'm going to ask that whoever's got a mic close by, that the members who are here of the council to introduce themselves so that you can see them, you can hear their voices. It's not just my voice. We unfortunately, we weren't all able to be here. Some are stuck somewhere else traveling. But I'll come to, you got a mic ready. Let's start there. Ma?
Good morning, beautiful guests. I'm from this book that I have, South Africa Women in Dialogue, from civil society. I was also very embarrassed. Why me? Because really the way I was nominated by the Premier's office, I was just, but why me? Because I'm just an ordinary woman, and I'm from an informal settlement. And my understanding my understanding, I did have a big fear that, I'm not going to go there and talk things that I don't know. Because I didn't understand how God is talking to a person. It was the hand of God that have made this office to nominate me, to come and do this. It's terrible, guys. It's not easy to face the lion in the face and just tell the lion that, look here, you are the lion and I'm the elephant. I can see who is who. Thank you very much. I'm Pusele Somaria Matumis. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Abshin. Minjani. Yivukile. Vito ra mina is Zanele Savela. I am Zanele Savela. I suspect I got here because of my background in labor. I used to be the spokesperson of the South African Transport and Allied Workers Union, and that's how I ended up here. But although I'm not with them anymore, I still toy. Thank you very much.
Is that everybody that's here?
Dumelang, ka lebitso ke Thabang wa ha Sonyati, ke representa Labour.
Thank you very much. And as you know, I'm Claudel van Eck. When I first joined the council, I'd come from the professional body space. So I used to be the CEO of the Institute of Internal Auditors. I'm not an internal auditor myself, but I had been in that profession in terms of the institute itself for about 13 years, I'd say. So the rest of the members of the council, Labour has already been mentioned. We've got Prof. Dion Rousseau, for example, who heads up the Ethics Institute. The chair, Terence Nombembe, some of you may know him as the previous Auditor General of South Africa. And I'm not going to go through the whole list, but essentially the council consists of people who have track record in terms of the stakeholdership that they would be representing, but also, very importantly, a good and deep understanding of ethics and where we need to get the province to. So your question in terms of the authority essentially that we have, what difference can we make? And the manner in which we are not employed as such, so we haven't been elected by the people of South Africa. As I said, we've been appointed by the Premier. But in all fairness to the Office of the Premier, what we have seen is very active participation. And that there definitely is a listening that is happening. So when we are giving advice, that comes back to us in terms of whether we are moving the needle. The council does put together reports, and I'm not 100% certain, and we may need to get back to you on this in terms of when our next report will be released. But really, for us, we are working in phases. So one of the important parts of this phase that we're in now is to bring the stakeholders around the table that are in the ecosystem. We are not seeing this as we have all the answers. What we're saying is, as an ecosystem, collectively we have the answers. We need to talk to each other. So it's not just about us telling you what we are doing and what we want you to do. It is about us having a collective conversation around what is it that we need to do collectively to get the province to where we need to see the province. So that is really important to us. So this is not a directive conversation. The roles and responsibilities that I mentioned in the presentation really comes from our terms of reference. The presentation will be made available to all of you so that you will have it. And it was really, for today, we don't want to take so much time talking about us, because it's really more about you and how we can work together. And how do we shape this thing together? How can we make a difference? As I said earlier on, it's going to have to be together. So what we have been able to do so far, and I'll touch on the question also that was asked around the whistleblowing, for example. Are whistleblowers protected? I can tell you that for me personally, it's a huge issue in my personal practice. Whistleblower protection, whistleblower support, I should say, is one of the areas that I specialize in. We are nowhere near, and this is a South Africa-wide issue, not just a province-wide issue. We're nowhere near where we can guarantee protection. But where we need to get to is that we're able to say, for when we're talking about whistleblowers, that we're talking about both protection and support. More often than not, we only talk about protection. And when we talk about protection, we also don't go deep enough. What does protection actually mean? For me, protection starts right at the office of the manager. Are those people trained well enough to ensure that when somebody blows the whistle in their office, they know how to deal with that situation without compromising the individual? It is also about teaching people how to blow the whistle safely, because sometimes we've got to recognize the fact is that within our organizations, to a large degree, we are mirroring society. So what is happening in our society happens in our organization. So when we have situations where we've got people, as I say, wolves run in packs. So when you've got a pack of wolves in a particular scenario, how does the whistleblower survive that? So a lot of teaching that needs to happen, and we've already started with that. We just, about a week or so ago, we had a webinar on just speaking to our people in the province, or employed in the province, so that we can start to get that deeper understanding. And when I talk about support, it is more about psychological support, and here I think is you've raised an area that where we should be talking about this group of people. How do you help us? Because we underestimate what whistleblowers go through. It is not just about being in an unsafe environment from a physical perspective. By psychologically, they also go through a tremendous amount of trauma. Just to have to make the decision that you are going to blow the whistle, especially when it's in a toxic environment, can take its toll. So a lot of people at the end of that road, of having walked that road of blowing the whistle, then end up with illnesses and really not being able to recover from that. So how do we support them? How do we get you involved in helping us with that? And so when we do the reporting, this is the first of its nature with this group, but our intention is to have more of these, to come back to you, to be able to report back to you. This is what we discuss. This is how we've been able to make progress. And remember, when we say we as the council, ultimately it is the Premier and his team that are the implementers. So we don't implement, but we just need to, from an oversight perspective, if they are not implementing, then we're going to say no. And in our reporting to the broader stakeholdership and to be able to report to the public, we can then start to give you information in terms of to what degree where the needle is moved and to what degree the needle is moved. I'm hoping that I did put a disclaimer up front, right? Program Director, did I cover everything?
Yes.
Thank you.
The Premier said, without fear or favor, can someone take the mic? Without fear and favor, please raise issues with him. We've had enough of Ask GEAC for now. We will now allow you to engage with your Premier, our Premier. And I think during the course of the day, we will have time to interact with GEAC members and get more information. I'm going to note the first round of hands. If there are questions of clarity, not comments, let's take the first few hands, not more than 5. Questions of clarity. If you've had your chance, give others an opportunity as well. So I'm noting Ubaba Unzolapa. I'm noting your hand. I'm trying to balance the gender. I'm noting my leader there, Ogoge Stoko. I'm noting my mother here. That's the 4th one. I'm trying to balance the age. I'm noting that red jacket over there. Questions of clarity, not statements, questions of clarity. Then we'll open the floor so that you can really engage the Premier on issues that are important to you. Can we follow the order? Just tell us your name, what entity. I think we'll start here. I don't see the mic. Yes, seated there next to Tabang, Member Tabang.
Thank you very much, Program Director Orlando from Ekurhuleni FBO. 2 things about the initiative. First of all is that one appreciates its all-encompassing perspective because there's both ethics and corruption. Ethics is developmental, corruption is corrective. And the Premier needs to be applauded for taking such a political stance, and it's never been seen in the provinces, so the Premier needs to be supported on that. The second thing is, how do you then translate this into our, because this is far and wide and far-reaching, how do you translate it into our everyday agenda item, into our FBO meetings, ward meetings, because it needs to be consumed and be chewed on by all sectors of society to make it a reality. So that's my question. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's just follow that order. It's a good example of how to raise concise questions.
My name is Isaac Sebulai, and I'm a member of South African National Christian Forum in Ekurhuleni. Thank you so much for the opportunity that we can raise our concerns and our appreciation to what you are doing. My question is about the single marriage bill. As a pastor, I need some clarification moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I've noted the hands, and again, let's learn how to maximize the opportunity. I want you to engage the Premier on what he was saying, and we have the whole day till 4 or goes but it's 4 o'clock to get deeper. So make sure that what the Premier was sharing, you actually engage. Remember, I pointed people, so just address specifically to what the Premier was saying.
Thank you. Premier, we appreciate the opportunity to gather here. Amongst the things that you have mentioned, Amandla Nkosizwane from the sector of education in private schools. Now, amongst the problems that you highlighted that we are faced with as a nation, we have the regulating bodies, especially on sex education. We have a problem of pregnancy with kids, as you highlighted. But we have the regulating bodies. What are they doing? And we also have the justice system on criminals. What are they doing? We have the law enforcement. What are they doing? Thank you.
Thank you. I noted Umama Lapa. That's number 4.
My name is Omar Khasu. I reside in Ward 73. I'm the founder and the chairperson of Women Developing Others. I participate in the faith-based in the region. And the Premier mentioned the sad part that is affecting so many mothers, and he did say there is no one that is directly or indirectly not affected by this sad disease of drug abuse. That side of the town towards Ward 91, the entire Orange Grove, our kids are actually being enslaved by the drug lords. These are the kids that grew up in front of us, and what is said about that side of the town is that the leadership, they don't pay attention to that ward, the entire ward. It's Gauteng, Yokilani, Uval, Bellevue, and Norwood, because it is perceived as an elite area. So, but the drug lord, you know, even when you pass there by foot, when you walk, you'll hear them saying to, you know, on the phone, talking to their fellow colleagues, wherever whoever they talk to, no, you'll find me in Lagos, I'm in Lagos, you know. And this pains you, and you become a target, because some of the kids we house, some of the kids, you know, they are hungry. You know, I remember last year before last, young men that were joining us as we were busy praying, you know, in the area, because I stood up for prayer, I stood up for, like the Premier was saying, that we are bringing back the 10 commandments. So you get to be isolated because people don't want you to reverend the name of Jesus.
Thank you.
They do not want you to stand up to pray for these sick kids.
Thank
so
you,
the
Madam.
clarity for me is that how do we, you know, how do we collaborate? Today I really am present here, 100% present, so that I can really be part of the change.
You've
Thank you.
made your point. I have two last hands. You see, if we are all concise, more of us are going to have an opportunity to engage. So I ask the comment, then we'll have time to engage. There was a hand there, Kababo Kogis, then the last one there at the back, then we'll come back.
Yeah.
Over to
A moment of silence for the late Babita. May her soul rest in peace. The moment of silence goes to all whistleblowers who have lost their life at work. I'm a whistleblower myself, and I know how hard it is, especially in this province. You can be isolated. So let me not talk about my personal issues. Let me speak about the issues that the Premier raised. Premier, we have seen from your office the 2022 report, the biennial report of Gauteng Ethics Advisory Council. And they spoke of the KPMG, the McKinsey, and the SAP. My question is, are we still doing business with these companies as Gauteng Province? And is our national government still doing business with this? Because as Gauteng Province, we also work together with the national government. There is the issue, Premier, that was brought to you, the revelation in the Judicial Commission and inquiry into the allegation of state capture and allegation of corruption relating to the procurement of PPEs. And there was a recommendation that was given to you from this beautiful organization, the doctor there. I want to ask you in this house to say,
What advice did they give you? And what have you done in that regard? Premier, you have created jobs, but the jobs that you have created on the brigades, it's more harm, causing more harm than any other. It promotes corruption. I speak here as a Rastafari community. Our Rastas have been arrested for holding a joint of ganja. And when you know that the CRL Commission in 2012 made the recommendation, and I'll ask the Premier, do you respect the recommendation of the CRL Commission?
Okay. Let me say this again. I'm very patient. We have the whole day to engage. When we say questions of clarity to what the Premier has addressed, stick to his presentation. Then when we get into engagement, then you can go wild. Let's learn discipline here so that when you go outside, we are taken seriously because we are disciplined, we are systematic, and we stick to issues. That's the last question of clarity. Let's talk about what the Premier has said. Then when we engage, then we can go to town along the same lines. I'll come back to the other hands. Over to you, sir. We will learn how to do things in this sector.
Thokozani Dumelange. My name is Colin Mabula from Mamelodi THO. I'm currently the chairperson. I think I will go a bit, my chairperson, please allow me. Mr. Premier, I would love to thank you for all the good job you have done in South Africa. On the 6th of March 2023, I still remember you made a statement that South Africans, we must stand up and we must reclaim all those plaza shops that are owned by foreigners who came into South Africa unlawfully. So as traditional healers, we saw the article, but the problem we had is that we need to engage with the Premier so that we can request that also, not only just plaza shop. As traditional healers, we have a problem with foreigners coming practicing traditional healing unlawfully, so giving people endangering lives. So we request the office of the Premier to help us to eradicate not only spaza shop, also the chemist, African chemists that are owned by foreign nations, which you don't know muti or anything to do about that. And also these churches, because of now it's dangerous for us to go to rivers, clays, hills, and mountains. So we ask that if you can put your wardens to look over there and remove those people. Thank you, Premier.
Thank you very much. I'm going to let the Premier respond to issues. Then after this, we'll then discuss. I see people want to discuss. So I'm closing questions of clarity. Then after this, we will engage. I'll pick up the hands. Over to you, Premier.
Thank you so much, Muruti. Truly appreciate that. I thought there would be many hands. I'm glad that there were. No, you will engage with Muruti. Maybe you are scared of me. I'll leave you in peace. And then you will engage with Muruti. Let me start with the advisory council. The thinking behind establishing the advisory council. We really believe that you need counsel when you lead a huge province like Gauteng. That you need people that are independent, people who are coming from law enforcement agencies, just to guide us where they feel that you are doing things wrong. I love football, so I know you can't be a player, referee, and a goalkeeper at the same time. So you need to get somebody that is very independent to come and guide you and give you the support that you need. And I want to thank the advisory council. They are very polite and very conservative in telling you the work that they have done. They've done exceptionally well. For example, they advised us that we need lifestyle audits of all political leaders in government. And all the MECs or ministers serving under my leadership, all of them have gone through lifestyle audits, and thanks to this particular team. And we know their financial status. So we have now extended it to all senior managers of government. Because, you know, both ourselves as politicians and some managers, when you are at work, you see them mara ha weekend. How we are go DSTV delicious. No, it can't be. So they've guided us on how best to conduct. And we are the first province to go through those lifestyle audits. And thanks to this team that we are. Secondly, they said to us, the biggest problem of corruption in Gauteng is through what they call supply chain or tenders or contracts. And they advised us to say the problem is, Premier, these tenders are determined by few people who sit at the corner and then allocate these tenders. Open this to everyone. Open this to scrutiny. So we are the first province to have something that we call open tender system. So we advertise the tender, all those that have applied for the tender, and anyone who's a member of society, when the tender is adjudicated, you sit there and watch while people are taking decisions. So there is no someone taking something from someone to determine and influence a tender. You know why your tender didn't win. You know the price you gave, what the other people have given up. You sit in that particular meeting. And that's the transparency that they've introduced, and we want to thank them for that aspect. Even though it takes time, but you'll rather take time rather than lose the value of what you need to have in society. So that's another thing they've asked. They've also guided us on how to manage our finances in our province. And for the first time, I don't know after how many years, all government departments in Gauteng, the Auditor General released our financial statements. All Gauteng departments have passed their financial audits, with 6 of the 10 departments getting a clean audit where there are no problems. And this is the work of this particular team guiding us and working us. But you can have clean audits does not mean that there's no wrong thing that is happening. I think the chairman there raised the issue of Babita. A sad story. Very, very sad story. But when we came into office, I landed on this report, and I said to the president of our country, you can't have a whistleblower giving us this information, what is happening at Tembisa hospitals and other hospitals, and we want to treat it as a small thing. Yes, the police have arrested the person that shot. Yes, these people have acknowledged that they're the one that killed her. But you don't want the one that pulled the trigger. We want the one that sent them to go and deal with this particular mess. So I said to the president, please proclaim, make a proclamation. What it means when you make a proclamation, it means that the police can track the phone calls. It means we can get the movement of all these people who spoke to them and all this particular thing. And I'm glad that that proclamation was done 3 weeks ago, and hopefully we'll find out who was this culprit that did all these things. So this is the work of this particular team, and they've convened you, and I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. Honestly, I always tell people, and it's just that in life, people will criticize you. So you must develop a thick skin. I was at one function, I said to people that, and they laughed at me. To say, you know, in life, even if, you see me, even if I can dance inside the river, dance, inside the river, someone will accuse me of causing dust. But it's a dust. Well, now it's a dust. while I'm in the middle of a river, where now it's a dust. So that's how life is. So I want to thank you that when you saw my invite, you genuinely felt we need to go there and assist this government. Because the trust deficit between government as its citizens is growing bigger and bigger. We need to close this because people feel that there are things that are not done by government. But I always tell people there are things that must be done by government, but there are things that must be done by society as well. It must not be just because we've exercised our right to cross and vote for somebody, that's the end. There are roles that you need to play. I'm more interested, to be quite frank, Murud. It's just unfortunate that I've been assigned at that. I'm more interested to speak to the church leadership. Church leadership is local government and provincial government and national government playing any meaningful role to support you as churches. So I want to engage you on that aspect. And I said it and I still insist that you can have minister of water, you can have minister of youth, you can have minister of... If we don't have a religious minister to manage religion in our country, we will not... Where are these churches established? You know, we have Prof and the team here, Prof. I'm not propagating that you be minister because you are chairing that. But let me tell you, if you can't get the moral stature of a country right, we are not going to get the country right. So our engagement with you, from my own point of view, besides the session that the Advisory Council is having, is just to have a frank talk with the church leadership. Where can we do things that we think are right and where we can't do things that we think we can resolve them? Because young people by nature are a contested terrain. By nature, everyone is contesting their terrain. They just put those things in their ears and put their trousers here. It means they've arrived. But is this the society that you want to see? And how, therefore, together with government and the education system, can we salvage that situation? Let me tell you, church, we've got, and not church only, when I say church, I think I aggregate everyone that is to have a province that I'm leading, and we are told that 600 young people have committed suicide in the last 3 months, which simply means 200 young people committed suicide in our province every month. And there is no uproar in society. Nothing. It's business as usual. No more manus was born. I mean, no sharp. It can't be. It can't be. So our approach, therefore, and that's the reason why I really feel that, you know, sometimes we rush things and assume, and apologies, Muruti Mabuza and everyone that organized this. I always say, yes, we might come from same or represent same constituencies, but our needs and some of the things that we want to express are different. If I had my way, I would have the traditional leadership alone because our issues are different from any other. And I have religious leaders alone. And I have everyone alone. When we have found each other, then we can come together. We can't rush and go everyone under one roof as you have one. And if I'm wrong, I'm sorry, leadership. Because the assumption that our problems are the same is a very wrong assumption. And our assumption that all these problems can be resolved under one roof, one meeting, sometimes is wrong. We might have dismissed that, I don't know, about single marriage bill. It's not only one, Ndadesbol. There is a bill from the Muslim community that wants to take rights from women. And it's on the table. And there are many other bills. And the problem is, South Africa is a consensus-driven country. We want to develop a consensus on everything. But at one stage, I'm of the strong view that there are other things that we must stand firm and say, this one, it can't happen. And amongst those one is the issue of drugs. Without discriminating, German, what you have just said. But you can't subject our children at the age that they are to these drugs. We've turned our own children. They steal everything in the house. We can't. We just have to say no. Even if this is business, this business must come to an end immediately. And stop it. Because it's just wiping a generation. A generation. As I said, I'm not exaggerating. All of us here, there's no one that is not affected by this thing, directly or indirectly. So, I'm of the view that I'll leave you with the pastors and the team to engage. We'll look forward to our reports. But I want to thank you for honestly coming here. This is the beginning. As I said, when I was dancing in the river, I'm accused of causing dust, is that in our country, whatever that we do nowadays, especially the period that we are in, I'll be accused, no, this one is campaigning. That is why he's doing this thing. And I already say, and I said to one community, they don't have electricity. And we went there to fix the electricity. And they said that, Premier, you are giving us electricity, we appreciate, but you are campaigning. And I said, you'll rather accuse me of campaigning rather than doing nothing. So I'm not campaigning. It's just that there are things that we need to get right. And if we can't get them right at the right moment, we'll never get them right. And they will live the way they are. So, Pastor Nzo, I really appreciate your kind comments. I know how committed you are in assisting us as government and assisting us wherever that you want to utilize your church. And I'm challenging you, Pastor Nzo, that we need the entire Katlo Fosloras to come to our church and we speak about the issues that we have. We're introducing these things to you now, so that by the time we come to where you are at your locals, I think Muruti Lekhoete that said they are on the ground. By the time we come where we are, you must not say Premier Panyaza didn't consult us. I want to rock up at your church or a traditional service or whatever service that you have on Sunday, so that we can deal with all these issues that are confronting society. Good people, our battles are too many. But let's choose those that we know. If we win them, others will be meaningless because we'll have done the things that we need to do. So that's the part that I felt we need to deal with this thing. Well, you raised the issue, Mr. Zwane, of regulatory body about teenage pregnancy and the challenges that... You know, I had the opportunity to be advisor of the Minister of Education. I worked with the Minister of Education for almost 13 years. You are confronted by a situation where somebody says, teach our children about sex because we as parents can't teach them. And then you have somebody that says, don't teach them about sex, I will teach them. And I said South Africa is a consensus country. So to strike a balance of the two is extremely difficult. But reality is, what we've been doing, what we've been cooking, what we've been proposing, what has been happening in our classroom up until now, if you check the statistics of teenage pregnancy, something is not working right. Something is not working right. So we just need to pause and say, what is it that is not working? And there are others that are making some meaningful proposals. To say, no. Bring the stick. Yeah, bring the stick. They can. And there are others say, no, bring God inside the classrooms. And there are others that are saying, we are traditional leaders, give us space to address these children. And there are others that feel that there are cultural events that must be trips that must be taken by school children to visit various cultural centers for them to learn. So that is why I say sometimes we feel that to bring everyone under one roof is good. Yes, it's good to hear all of us. But I really believe in sector-based strengthening of various sectors first. And when we are strong as various sectors, we can then be in a position to work together. And this relates to teenage pregnancy. And teenage pregnancy is nothing else but an affirmation of rape to our children that are still young. And we need, therefore, those particular bodies that we're asking, where are they, the justice system, as well as the police. As Oma, I think you've spoken beautifully about drugs. It's something that is very close to my heart. And it frustrates me, I must be honest. And I must confess. I said to the team when I was elected to be the Premier, that all these children that are going through the difficulties of drugs, we must take them to rehab, give them education. When they finish, those that want to conclude their university studies, we will give them bursaries. Those that need work, will create skills for jobs for them, ensure that there is a program to deal with these things. And the officials came to me and said, no, Premier, it does not work that way. It is the user that must come. The parent must not bring the user here. And I'm saying, maybe in law, when we were formulating that particular law, we felt it necessary because at that time, I can guess, in 1994, 1995, the issue of drugs was not this right. So when we were formulating that law in 1994, yes, maybe the user needed to come, but drugs are not like alcohol when somebody will come to Alcohol Anonymous and say, help me. It affects parents and families have the right as well to say you must take this child and seek help for that particular child. So that's where we are. That's why we can't take off because we are told the user must be the one that comes. And we all know that the user is very difficult to acknowledge that they're going through difficulty. So I've assigned the team to go and find a way of relaxing that particular law. Because until we do that, we are not going to assist to solve this problem of users that are going through the difficulties that we have. But who are the drug lords? Who are the drug lords who are so heartless that they feel that they can do as they wish? There was that television show that came to an end that was assisting us to identify these drug lords. It's one area that we still need to find a way of assisting others. Bob Collins spoke about reclaiming our sponsor shops, not in terms of shops, but also traditional shops, African chemistry, and all other things. I've taken your point. I've noted that point, and I think we will take your advice on these issues. As I take my seat, I once more want to thank you for responding positively to our invite. But what I want more from you. Where you are, whether you are a traditional leader, whether you are a religious leader, what is happening in your society, and where do you think that this government is missing? And how will you want this government to strengthen your hand and work with you so that all of us can stand firm against these things that are happening in our province. I might be the premier of this province, but I can't solve these problems alone. We need you. And people come to you, people believe in you. And if we combine all our efforts together, I can assure you, as Dr. Van Eck said, we can move that needle backward. And by moving that needle backward, we are starting a revolution of restoring order and sanity in our province. Thank you once more for your attention. Truly appreciate it. Oh, let me welcome Imama. Imama is the MEC responsible for health and wellness. I've assigned a task to lead this sector of all of you. So I can see Doc, I can see everyone, the religious leadership that works with her. So I'm leaving you with her so that she can take all the things that you think that we need to know as government. But let's engage. Let's engage without fear or favor. Where you feel that your church is not getting, or a traditional center is not getting recognition or support, let's engage so that we can solve these things. We can't expect you to fight this battle on our behalf, whereas we are not comfortable where we are operating. So we need to strengthen that base first, and then we'll move together to deal with all these issues. Moroka Swallows is playing this afternoon. Please, don't feel otherwise. Please wish us well so that we can win this afternoon. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thanks for your time.
Thanks to the Premier. You all know we started late and we're trying to make sure that we stick within our time. The Premier has another engagement, so we are releasing him. This doesn't mean we are not going to raise issues that we wanted to raise with the Premier. We will do so in our coming sessions. I'm going to request that we have tea between 5 and 10 minutes. We should have started the next session at 11. Unfortunately, we started late. If we can try to be back quickly, it will allow us to align ourselves so that we use the time effectively. I've seen the hands, but let us suppress them for now. Let's just have tea, then we will reconvene and realign. Thank you.